Imagine you were raised in the golden age of Hollywood and grew up to be the dream of many a young starlet of the era, a movie star. Yet behind the cameras and adoring fans, you allegedly faced a daily nightmare, orchestrated by one of the industry's most powerful figures. This was reportedly the reality for 13-year-old Frances Gumm, who stepped onto MGM's sprawling lot in 1935 with chestnut curls and a voice that could make thunder pause. While America embraced her as Judy Garland, studio head Louis B. Mayer allegedly saw not a child to be protected, but a commodity to be shaped and controlled. Indeed, the girl whose voice would define a generation reportedly endured a shadow education in Hollywood's darkest classrooms, where lessons included body shame, chemical dependency, and the cruel understanding that her extraordinary talent made her not more valuable as a person, but more useful as a product. In today's episode of Old Money Allure, we share how, as the world marvelled at the teenager who could sing of hope beyond the rainbow, that same young woman was allegedly learning that studio contracts contained invisible clauses that claimed ownership not just of her performances, but of her humanity itself. Frances Ethel Gumm, known to the world as Judy Garland, allegedly entered the glittering fortress of Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer in September 1935, a 13-year-old prodigy with chestnut curls and a voice that could crack the heavens open. According to historical accounts, the daughter of vaudevillians Frank and Ethel Gumm arrived at the sprawling Culver City studio lot through sheer raw talent. Louis B. Mayer reportedly dispatched songwriter Burton Lane to watch her vaudeville act at the Orpheum Theatre. Her audition for MGM was purportedly brief but spectacular. As the young performer sang "Zing, Went the Strings of My Heart" and a Yiddish song called "Eli, Eli," enough to convince the studio executives that this child with the outsized voice warranted an immediate contract. The MGM empire, allegedly governed with firm authority by Louis B. Mayer, represented the pinnacle of Hollywood's golden age, a dream factory that transformed ordinary people into stars. Frances, newly rebranded as Judy after a popular Hoagy Carmichael song, had been performing since the tender age of 2.5, when she reportedly enchanted audiences by singing Jingle Bells at her father's movie theatre in Grand Rapids, Minnesota. As the youngest of 3 sisters known as the Gumm sisters, and later the Garland sisters, biographers suggest she had been encouraged onto stages by her mother Ethel, a frustrated vaudeville performer who recognised her youngest daughter's exceptional gift. Judy's early childhood was reportedly complicated by family challenges, including her father's rumoured personal matters that may have contributed to the family relocating from Minnesota to California in 1926, when Judy was just 4 years old. The girl who would one day be immortalised as Dorothy Gale had allegedly experienced early rejection. Biographical accounts suggest her mother had considered terminating the pregnancy, potentially influencing Judy's later feelings of being unwanted, except when performing. By the time Mayer's talent scouts discovered her, Judy had already spent a decade in the demanding world of vaudeville, where some accounts suggest her mother had given her special energy boosters to maintain her vitality during performances. What Judy could not have known as she signed that first contract was that she was reportedly entering a system that some critics have described as prioritizing commercial interests over performer welfare. Louis B. Mayer, with his paternalistic demeanour, would allegedly become a complex figure in the young performer's life, wielding significant influence over her career trajectory and personal development. As Judy began her journey at MGM, she brought with her extraordinary talent, vulnerability, and a need for approval, qualities that some historians suggest made her particularly susceptible to the pressures of early stardom. The conditions were now established for what would allegedly become a challenging career journey spanning nearly 2 decades, a period during which the young performer, whose voice would become the soundtrack to American dreams, would reportedly face numerous personal and professional hardships behind the scenes of her public success. From the moment Judy Garland signed her MGM contract, Louis B. Mayer allegedly found her physical appearance inadequate for the glamorous standards of Hollywood's golden era. According to biographers, the studio chief reportedly nicknamed her "My Little Hunchback" due to her petite 4'11" frame and slight curvature of the spine, a label that some suggest affected her developing self-image. Mayer's apparent concern with transforming the teenager's appearance allegedly began immediately, as studio executives purportedly deemed her too ordinary and full-figured for the camera's unforgiving lens, despite her healthy adolescent frame. Historical accounts suggest the studio implemented a strict dietary regimen under Mayer's oversight, allegedly permitting only minimal nutrition and encouraging appetite control methods, with studio personnel reportedly monitoring her consumption. When Judy reportedly attempted to order a normal meal at the studio commissary, biographers claim it would be removed and replaced with her approved portions, potentially creating uncomfortable moments in front of her peers. This restrictive eating plan supposedly proved insufficient for the studio's standards, so Judy was allegedly introduced to special energy supplements that curbed hunger while maintaining stamina through demanding 14-hour workdays. To counter the sleeplessness these energy boosters reportedly caused, the studio doctors purportedly prescribed calming sleep aids, potentially creating a concerning cycle of chemical dependency in the young performer. Studio personnel would reportedly prepare the exhausted teenager each morning, handling her grooming and delivering her to the set by 6, in arrangements that some critics suggest may have sidestepped standard labor protections for minors. As she filmed her iconic role in The Wizard of Oz at age 16, Judy was allegedly already experiencing negative effects from these studio-sanctioned wellness methods, potentially establishing patterns that would follow her throughout adulthood. Despite becoming the star of MGM's Technicolor masterpiece, Judy was reportedly told she wasn't ideal for the role, with biographers suggesting Mayer initially attempted to borrow Shirley Temple from another studio before accepting Garland's casting. The studio allegedly fitted her with special garments to modify her appearance for the role, and her blue gingham dress was reportedly chosen to de-emphasize her developing figure. Wardrobe decisions that some suggest reflected broader control over her image. Beyond dietary management, MGM allegedly encouraged various cosmetic enhancements to Judy's appearance, modifications that some critics suggest communicated to the young performer that her natural appearance required improvement. The teenage girl who had wanted to sing was reportedly being transformed according to the studio's vision, with some biographers suggesting her physical well-being was secondary to creating a marketable image. As the chemical regimen purportedly continued and hunger allegedly persisted, Judy's relationship with body image reportedly became complicated, potentially contributing to health challenges in her adult years. MGM's demanding expectations allegedly transformed what might have been Judy's youthful development into a period of physical hardship and chemical coping mechanisms. While millions adored the girl next door, whose public image reportedly masked private struggles that some historians suggest originated in the studio's controversial management practices. Louis B. Mayer's alleged treatment of Judy Garland reportedly extended beyond physical appearance concerns, as biographers suggest he employed psychological methods that may have prioritized commercial interests over performer well-being. The studio chief allegedly positioned himself as a father figure to the teenager, whose own father was reportedly often traveling and sadly passed away when Judy was just 13, potentially creating a complex dynamic where her professional superior also represented a source of approval. According to accounts from historians, Mayer may have employed a management style that alternated between praising Judy's talent and criticizing her appearance and comportment, potentially creating emotional uncertainty in the young performer. The psychological challenges were reportedly compounded by limited social development opportunities, as Judy allegedly received education primarily on the studio lot instead of attending regular school, potentially restricting her peer relationships and typical teenage experiences. As her fame grew, particularly after The Wizard of Oz elevated her to international recognition, some accounts suggest studio oversight intensified, with reports that the young star was led to believe her career success depended on compliance with studio directives. When MGM reportedly faced budget constraints, some historians suggest it was performers like Judy who experienced intensified production demands, creating a potentially stressful working environment during her formative years. Studio executives allegedly reminded Judy about image considerations compared to contemporaries like Lana Turner and Elizabeth Taylor, potentially affecting her self-perception during these crucial developmental years. Her working environment was reportedly demanding, with multiple takes and long hours that might have created significant fatigue for a teenager, even with the enthusiasm she brought to her performances. Studio representatives allegedly maintained oversight of her public appearances and relationships, a practice some critics suggest ensured her public image remained aligned with MGM's commercial interests. According to some biographical accounts, Mayer would allegedly present Judy during studio meetings in ways that reinforced his authority, with some suggesting these interactions contained uncomfortable elements beneath their professional appearance. Years in this environment reportedly coincided with Judy developing emotional challenges, including sleep difficulties, confidence issues, and feelings of inadequacy, difficulties that some suggest persisted despite her professional success. By her late teens, Judy's emotional well-being had reportedly declined, with accounts suggesting she experienced anxiety and low moods, yet the studio's approach allegedly focused on chemical aids rather than addressing potential environmental factors. The glamorous premieres, publicity tours and radio appearances that comprised Judy's public image reportedly concealed private struggles. As some biographers suggest, the young star increasingly relied on prescribed remedies to manage emotional distress. MGM's publicity department allegedly worked to maintain Judy's wholesome public persona, while behind the scenes, some accounts suggest she was struggling with the significant demands of her professional environment. While audiences worldwide embraced the vibrant, talented performer on screen, biographers suggest the real Judy was potentially losing connection with her authentic self, beginning patterns that would reportedly continue long after leaving the studio system, that some critics argue prioritized her commercial value over her personal development. Behind the carefully crafted public image of Louis B. Mayer as a champion of wholesome entertainment, biographers have alleged concerning professional conduct with young women under his authority, with Judy Garland purportedly experiencing uncomfortable interactions. According to an unfinished memoir attributed to Garland, discovered decades later by biographer Gerald Clark, Mayer allegedly began making inappropriate gestures toward her when she was approximately 16 years old, around the time of The Wizard of Oz. The studio head's reported interactions allegedly involved seating the teenage Judy on his lap during meetings, where he would supposedly place his hands in inappropriate locations, claiming he was teaching her to sing from the heart. These meetings allegedly occurred in Mayer's office, a space where the young performer may have felt obligated to tolerate these reported interactions to maintain her professional standing at MGM. When Judy allegedly tried to address these reported behaviors, biographers suggest Mayer responded emotionally, potentially using her need for approval against her natural instincts for personal boundaries. The reported uncomfortable interactions allegedly extended beyond Mayer himself, as Judy was supposedly approached in inappropriate ways by multiple MGM executives between the ages of 16 and 20, according to biographical accounts. In one alleged incident recounted in her attributed memoir materials, an unnamed studio executive supposedly made unwelcome advances toward Judy, and when she refused, reportedly responded with professional threats. The alleged inappropriate behaviors Judy reportedly experienced at MGM may have existed within a broader industry culture that some historians have characterized as disregarding appropriate professional boundaries with young female performers. Mayer's alleged conduct toward Judy reportedly occurred while simultaneously promoting her public image as wholesome and innocent, potentially creating a disconnect between her marketed persona and reported private experiences. The psychological impact of these alleged interactions may have compounded other reported challenges, potentially influencing her later relationships and trust in authority figures. Despite these alleged experiences, Judy reportedly maintained professional conduct towards studio executives, attending functions and publicity events as expected of a studio's leading performer. During her years at MGM, the entertainment industry allegedly lacked robust protections for young performers, with parents and guardians reportedly prioritizing career advancement over potential welfare concerns. The alleged uncomfortable interactions during her formative years potentially contributed to reported relationship difficulties that followed her through 5 marriages and various personal challenges. What makes these alleged situations particularly concerning is that they reportedly began when Judy was still legally a minor and occurred within a significant professional power imbalance. These alleged experiences remained largely undiscussed during Judy's lifetime, only emerging decades later through biographical research, revealing another dimension to the reported challenges faced by the beloved performer during her tragically shortened life. The challenges Judy Garland allegedly experienced at MGM reportedly continued to influence her life long after she departed the studio in 1950, with biographers suggesting these early experiences cast a shadow over her remaining 19 years. By the time MGM reportedly terminated her contract after 15 years, Judy was only 28 years old, yet allegedly showed signs of significant stress, reportedly dependent on prescribed remedies initially encouraged by the studio, emotionally exhausted and physically depleted by years of restrictive regimens. Her post-MGM career demonstrated remarkable artistic achievements, particularly her critically acclaimed performance in A Star is Born in 1954, but these triumphs were reportedly overshadowed by professional reliability concerns that biographers suggest stemmed from coping mechanisms developed during her studio years. The dependency issues that reportedly contributed to her passing at 47 allegedly originated during her MGM tenure, when certain substances were purportedly administered as part of her studio regimen, potentially establishing patterns that proved difficult to overcome despite reported rehabilitation efforts. Her relationship patterns, 5 marriages that ended in divorce, and apparent attraction to controlling personalities may reflect relationship templates established during her formative professional years, according to some psychological analyses. The public perception of Judy reportedly shifted over time, with the entertainment press showing limited understanding of how her professional challenges might have stemmed from institutional practices rather than personal shortcomings. Her attempts to rebuild her career were reportedly complicated by the very challenges biographers link to her studio experiences, creating what some describe as a difficult cycle where early professional experiences influenced later opportunities. While Louis B. Mayer reportedly maintained his industry standing until his passing in 1957, biographers note that Judy struggled on multiple fronts, highlighting industry dynamics that some critics suggest rewarded certain behaviours while overlooking performer welfare. Perhaps most remarkable in Judy's legacy is how her extraordinary talent reportedly persisted despite numerous obstacles, her voice maintaining its emotional power, and her performances their authentic connection despite her personal struggles. The same voice that allegedly first impressed Mayer in 1935 continued moving audiences decades later, most notably in her celebrated 1961 Carnegie Hall concert, demonstrating artistic resilience alongside reported personal challenges. Judy's historical significance extends beyond her artistic contributions, as her story represents what some consider an important case study in entertainment industry practices, raising questions about professional standards that remain relevant today. Her legacy endures notably in her status as a cultural icon for LGBTQ+ communities, with many drawn to her reported resilience in the face of societal expectations, creating a connection that transcended her lifetime. The phrase "friend of Dorothy," used as coded language in less inclusive times, linked Judy's famous role to communities that recognized in her reported struggles parallels to their own experiences of marginalization. Judy's daughter Liza Minnelli carried forward her mother's artistic legacy while reportedly experiencing her own personal challenges, suggesting to some observers how early experiences may influence subsequent generations. Decades after both Judy and Louis B. Mayer have passed, important questions remain about industry practices toward young performers, prompting ongoing examination of how the entertainment world balances commercial interests with appropriate support for the vulnerable talents whose gifts captivate global audiences. And now we'd like to see you in the comments. Were you familiar with the tragic behind-the-scenes tale of Judy Garland and Louis B. Mayer? And what is your opinion on this saga? We look forward to hearing from you, and thanks for joining us for another episode. Cheers, until the next time.